Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's lesson. Wonderful to be with you. And today we're going to look at connotation and denotation. I'm Mrs. Swart, and we'll be going through this together. Something that I always find fascinating is that we use of these expressions and we get things like this in tests and exams, and suddenly you don't have a cooking clue what you're doing. Meantime, it's actually very, very simple. And I'd like you to see just how easy it is. You'll remember we've done literal and figurative language as well. And in that we found out literal is exactly what the words say and figurative has a different meaning. Now, those two link up with our connotation and denotation. So what's the difference? Very simply, denotation is the dictionary meaning of the word. It's the literal meaning. It's the obvious meaning. It tells us exactly what the word means, and it's explained as follows, that it's its explicit meaning, and it's very objective. Remember, objective is when there's no emotion involved with having to interpret the sentence, so that what it tells you is what it wants to say. That is what the message is in it. It's giving you it objectively. Connotation is rather emotional, and there's a figurative association surrounding this word. It's emotional, it's figurative, subjective, what it implies or insinuates. In other words, it's not necessarily just what the words say. There's a different meaning to it. That's why some people would say to you, if you said something to them, they'd say, "Oh, I'm offended by that. How can you say something like that?" For the simple reason is that people often think that you mean something differently when you say something. So that's really what it's about. It's when you say something or you read something and you can interpret it differently. You get another meaning to it. And that's what these do. Just to give you an idea, the con in connotation, it's from Latin and it means together or with. All it's telling us is that the connotation of the word works with a literal meaning. So you have the meaning of the word, the literal meaning of the word, but you can read something else into it. There's something a little bit different, and it could be a positive, it could be a negative, or a neutral connotation. So it could be something that you think, "Oh, I'm offended by that. I didn't like that. You were insulting me." We've all had that feeling when we say, "Ma'am, that child said something to me." And when you hear the words, then you think, it doesn't sound that bad. But when you interpret the connotation of it, then you realize there may be a horrible or a mean meaning to it. But remember, not all connotations are negative. I want you to take note as we go through this, because you'll be doing your quiz at the end of the lesson. So look at that and make sure that when you do the quiz, you understand the difference between the two, whether it's exactly what it says, what the words say, or whether it's something else. So from the English Handbook and Study Guide, you will know it as the yellow and red book, or the red and yellow book, depending on how you look at it. I took this directly from there because I want you to remember that we always speak of as our Bible, our English Bible. For instance, I spoke about the students in my class. That's denotation, because this person is saying, we or I discussed the students. I spoke about them. There's nothing bad in that. Someone else might look at it and say, I spoke about the students. Oh, that's not very nice. Why are you speaking about us? This one, I chatted, and I put in brackets, kindly. I chatted about the students in my class, and the connotation here is that there was a friendly, open conversation, a neutral conversation. There's nothing funny about it. There's nothing implied by it, nothing nasty, nothing necessarily making it positive or negative. If I put in, I chatted kindly, or just gave it a different word choice there, then I could make it into a positive. But if I say to you, I gossiped about the students in my class, it's immediately a negative thing. Gossip is ugly. Gossip is negative. So we have to remember that. the choice of words will give you an idea. It will give you a different meaning from what you might want to say. And I think you might have spoken to foreigners who don't have English as a first language or even as a second language. And when they speak about something, they sometimes use a word that's a little bit strange sounding. And then you say, oops, you know, if you say that, you actually mean something totally different. So that would be affected by foreigners who use a language that they're not comfortable with or they don't know very well. So you have to be very careful about what message you want to convey. Are you trying to be a positive or negative? Because gossip is an ugly word in the sense that it's negative. It's nasty. It means that you're saying things about someone else that are not necessarily true. Now, I love this one because I noticed something. In South Africa, we might still say, I bought secondhand clothes, or someone sold secondhand clothes. And secondhand clothes sounds a little bit negative. But I noticed that if you watch television, you'll see some of these people who sell stuff. They sell something called vintage clothes. Now, vintage clothes are older clothes, but it's actually also secondhand clothes. But vintage clothes has a very positive ring to it. So connotation is like a ring to it where you say, oh, I'd like to buy some vintage clothes. I love the styles. But those clothes are also secondhand, but we don't speak of them as secondhand clothes. So if you're wearing something that's secondhand, you say, oh, I bought this at a vintage boutique. I'm wearing a vintage jacket. Maybe it's a secondhand jacket. So look at the sort of words and the message you want to convey. Are you trying to be nasty or are you trying to be kind? If I were to see someone in a beautiful dress and I know it's a very old dress, and I'll say, wow, that is a beautiful vintage dress you're wearing, then I'm conveying a positive message. I am actually complimenting them. But if I say, at which secondhand shop did you buy that? Then I'm being nasty. Then it's a negative connotation. So have a look at those and you will see that they really work very well to give you the idea of what a connotation can be. My dog is a boerboel, is a straightforward sentence, denotative. There's no funny story behind it versus a dog's life. If someone lives a dog's life, it's a terrible life. Most of us would think, my dog actually has a wonderful life. He doesn't really have a bad life. But in general, a dog's life indicates someone suffering. That is what the actual meaning is. So you need to brush up a little bit on all your idioms and things like that so that you can make sure that you use them correctly. Because some of you might have thought a dog's life is a good life, but actually saying a dog's life means a bad life of suffering and pain, things like that. So I want you to go and look. Practice makes perfect every time. You click on the link below to complete the exercise. There are different questions. Some of them ask you if a sentence is, say, for instance, positive, neutral, or negative connotation. Some will ask you if it's denotative or if it's connotative, things like that, and you'll be able to make up your mind and decide. Look carefully. It's very straightforward. It's very simple. And see that you go and respond to it. You answer it and you get it right, because I know you can. It's wonderful to see so many of you completing the quiz. It's really exciting to see, and to see that you're trying, and that's the most important thing. But to go back if you struggled or if you haven't had the success that you wanted to have, and make sure that you do it again and that you get it right, so that you can learn from it, because that's what our idea is here. We want to assist you. We want you to learn from it. We want you to improve so that you can use all of these things to your advantage to become more competent, more comfortable at using the language. Have a wonderful day, and thank you so much for today's lesson. It was really wonderful to be able to be with you again today, and God willing, I'll see you again tomorrow. Enjoy your day. Thank you very much.